Hey guys, how's everyone doing today? How's everyone going? How's it been? How's it going? I think it's going great. You want to know why my day is going great? Because Halo 6 was just announced. I'm just kidding. God isn't actually real. Anyway, so this year a few games came out. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but a few games came out this year, and I bought a few of them, and I played a few of them. So I think I'm going to talk about them, because I don't really have anything else to do, and I feel like working my ass off on editing something that doesn't really matter. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, games from 2017 are good. So Everspace, huh? I guess you could say this game could have done better with some more spatial awareness. Spatial awareness. So when I was buying this game, I was like, what could possibly go wrong? I mean, look at this gameplay. I mean, come on. I mean, it looks so crispy and fresh. I just want to snuggle with it. But yeah, I can assure you that the ball that has been dropped when making this game has to still be falling to this day. Technically speaking, a ball of this mass should only take a few hours to fall directly to the center of the Earth, which is the point where it will either cease to fall, or it will continuously bounce back and forth between the Earth's center of gravity until it eventually settles in the center. But the physics, the sheer fucking physics of this game has allowed it to fall continuously through other multiverses, breaking multiple rules of physics in the process. And it is said to this day that that ball is still dropping, forever and ever. So yeah, your guess is as good as mine as to what the fuck happened here. And despite of all of what I just said, I wouldn't say the game is an absolute fucking abysmal, aborted, asymmetrical, amateur, accio, more words that start with A, I need to finish this joke, anti-ethical abomination. But I would probably keep most of those words, to be totally honest. Maybe just take out accio, because that implies creativity. But to be fair, there are some things I do like it for. The look of the game is pretty nice. Though, if you're gonna have a dark plot, I don't really understand why you would have a warm filter, but maybe that's not the thing I should be criticizing. So yeah, I guess it wouldn't really be totally fair if I just shit all over this game without giving some reason for my general dissatisfaction with this product. I'll give Everspace a little bit extra time in the spotlight. So yeah, one reason is basically that the complexity of the primary weapons boils down to medium range weapon that's shit compared to your alt fire, long range weapon that's shit compared to your alt fire, and short range weapon that's shit compared to your alt fire. And hopefully you notice the amount of pleasure that's built up in my voice now, because this is something that's been strictly limited to FPSs for years. So you can imagine my pleasure when seeing it brought to a game that's supposed to have a marginally different sandbox type than an FPS. And at this point you're probably saying to yourself, okay, this asshole is being so hyperbolic that he can make an infinite surface with 3 dimensions, but just concentrated with his sheer negativity. But yeah, I mean, I still believe that this alt fire method should probably exist. It gives the game a little bit more depth, but maybe they could have toned it down from being the equivalent of 20 Cataclysm creating clearly overpowered guns, and then having your primary weapon be about as useful as the crossbow from Prey that literally doesn't even do damage. But at least there it even seemed intentional, so I can't even give it that much credit. But yeah, moving past poor balancing choices, the soundtrack has about 4 different tracks reserved for fast space, rock space, blue space, and space. And again, my expectations have just been shoved in a fucking van and held for ransom until the next part of our video. So how about how the ship controls? Well, it controls about as well as you'd expect. I mean, if your expectations were somewhere in the lower mantle. It's slow, it's clunky, I just don't even want to talk about it. So I'm going to make a titanic leap in logic and tell you that from a technical standpoint, I did not think that Everspace was worth the $20. And in essence, if you want a game with the same amount of content as Long Night of Solace from Halo Reach, but for $20, yeah, I'd recommend Everspace to you. And if you enjoy visuals, then yeah, I'd also recommend Everspace to you. And don't you worry either, because we have not even come close to reaching the bottom of the barrel yet. Well, I mean, we come kind of close, but we just have a little bit further to sink before we can come up out of the abyss. Well, I guess not every single space game could be a 10 out of 10 with that badass seal of approval, right? And if you guys couldn't tell, this is the abyss. So this game should basically just boil down to being World of Warships but with a Y-axis? But no, it manages to fall well below that threshold of competency. So if you were to take everything I just said about Everspace and maybe reversed a few points and then added some new ones, you would basically have how I feel about this game in a nutshell. The only differences really are that while Everspace's ships control like water balloons, this ship controls about as well as someone forcing a knife into your wrist and then you having to maneuver maneuver it around. But real talk time, biggest letdown for this game is easily the maps. I played on a few of them before I decided, well, yeah, Tide Pods would probably be about as enjoyable as this, and then I just fucked off into some other game. The maps in this game do not cater to this gameplay whatsoever. This kind of game should have ships that can't be killed by simply blowing your load into an all-out broadside. I like a little bit of tactics in my games, especially games like this. Quick mention that the respawn times seem obnoxiously fast, which seems like a fairly large oversight for a game where kills are supposed to have consequence in the multiplayer. But back to the maps, which totally break this eggshell without a yoke of a game because they suck, and here's why. When you look at a semi-competent game like Fractured Space, you notice immediately that the cover systems in each individual map have room for players to move around like they're a fucking sperm in a nut, just zooming across the map without worrying about getting long range by some faggot. That's what's lacking here. It's so goddamn compressed to the bottom of the fucking map. It's the equivalent of having an FPS map where the entire thing is completely fucking flat, except for a complex system of cover and buildings on the left side of the map. Ooh, which side do you think you're gonna go to?
I want a clean line of sight on my enemies, so I'm gonna go on the right side.
All this shit does is make the entire top half of the map the, hey, look at me, idiot, I'm rather large and uncomfortable about my weight side of the map. And add to this that the maps are about half the size they should be, and congrats, you got my least favorite game this year. Round of applause for Dreadnought. On the bright side, the concentrated cringe from the dialogue was enough to seal my wound shut from playing Everspace, so thank you, I guess. Okay, well, that was Dreadnought. Yeah. You made me play with, like, babies. So overall, yeah, I'd definitely say that Dreadnought has frames per second. Hey, look at that, guys. We're only 3 games in, and I already have a game I have some positive stuff to say about. This is also a good time to mention I'm doing these in no particular order. I mean, it's roughly in order of games I like least to most, but I already said that I liked Everspace more than I liked Dreadnought, so in essence, I'm an unreliable critic, and you can't trust me. And I just nullified that entire previous statement by saying that. Let's move on. So let's talk about Lawbreakers, the game that has so few people playing it that I literally couldn't even find a game. So I hope you're a big fan of crediting a work to its original source material. I mean, however you want to phrase the credits. Hopefully it sounds more interesting than the game. But to be fair, Lawbreakers has a few things going for it that keep the game above actual mediocrity for me. Side mention that this game is part of the legendary, infamous, arena shooter revival genre, which has been home to such classic and masterpiece hits, such as Quake and Unreal Tournament, among a few other things. The thing the actual game has going for it is its Quickster-like gameplay and its very high TDK, which makes it stand out a lot from other games in this genre. Going into the specifics of how fast gameplay and high TDK works would probably be way above my pay grade, so let's just summarize it by saying, it's different and new. But obviously it wasn't too different because this player count fell faster than my view counts post-Iran, and that's literally not even a joke. Check this shit out. Ooh, wrecked! But this game's art style is very... If I had to describe it, it would be like if you manifested Overwatch into 2 identical separate beings, and one represented all of its creativity, passion, and hard work, and the other represented Bastion, and you were forced to take the shot on one of them and hire the other one, and I'll let you theorize in the comments below whether or not you think that Bastion was the point of that joke. Come on, baby, let's get that audience engagement up. Get higher in the recommended section. Fuck yeah. Oh, fuck. But seriously, nothing visually here is worth writing home about. Artistically, same thing. And it's pretty much all to its detriment. Or, my bad, it's entirely to its detriment. There's like 3 people still playing this game. Next, please. Okay, guys. I have a confession to make. This is a puzzle game, and I'm not the best at puzzle games. So if that's any indication, I fall somewhere between Spurg and Special Ed in the puzzle game spectrum that is Aporia beyond the valley. Now my issue with this game really is there's not much to talk about. It's not like Night in the Woods, where speaking of Night in the Woods, stay tuned for Night in the Woods later in the video, where you can talk about the entire fucking where you can talk about the story and how fucking amazing it is. Sorry, getting off track. No, my bad. I can contain myself for the rest of this video. Don't worry about it. Like, what do you want me to do? Give the puzzles an artificial value of 1 to 10? I don't know what you want me to do here. Here's the rest of the review. I like the puzzles because they made me think, and games that make you think are good. So in an excellent parallel with my life, I shall drone on for a few more years before realizing it's completely pointless. But one thing I can in fact talk about is, and drumroll please, It's the visuals! The visuals in this game make me want to give up on life knowing that nothing I ever do will compete with a dumbass puzzle game. But being serious, the game always does a great job of putting you in elevated positions and open areas. That way you just have to appreciate the amount of sheer love and creativity that went into crafting these environments. But to be fair, I guess they didn't have to spend that many developer resources in other places outside of, where are we gonna put the puzzles? How are they gonna go? Outside of that, the soundtrack made me cream myself, and that's about it. Now, for a game which has the most attention paid to 3 frames. Funny Mercenary Workshop. I mean, who's ever commented on For Honor's poor connection speed and general incompetence regarding anything technically before? Okay, so I hope your diaphragms are ready because you're about to get hit by some context. That bit before with Lawbreakers? Yeah, that was entirely a joke. That was totally a joke. I just said, haha, this will be a funny segment. I'll just fucking play this game that has about 13 concurrent players on it at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. I'm sure I'm gonna get some Epic style gameplay. But this shit is not a joke. This shit is not a joke. It's seriously all the gameplay I could get. I tried for 3 days in a row. And in another parallel with YouTube, the game said fuck you for consistency and just sent me back to the main menu. So I hope you guys enjoy. This is gonna be 2 fucking segments where I don't even have gameplay. But yeah, I'd say that overall, For Honor's gameplay is pretty good. Alright, so right off the bat, I need to establish that I like this game more than Destiny 2. You have to get that shit out of the way right off the bat. I know I'm not going in order with these, but I figured it would be pretty important to clarify just because I thought it would be funny to transition through hard music. Anyway, now I'm sure most of you are acutely aware about my general tendency to have an Ice Age 2 whenever something Halo is announced, mainly due to the sheer amount of concentrated joy that is forced into my body whenever something like this happens in a Halo game. But yeah, blitz packs are really bad, as in very bad, as in I don't really understand why the Romans haven't crucified it yet with like 2 other people that didn't do anything. But all religious potshots aside, the rec packs in this game are a terrible example of microtransactions implementation. Wow, I fucking butchered that shit. Like beyond the realm of shit and into pay to win territory. Case in point, watch this video. Rec packs in Halo 5 are totally fine with me. Packs for the idiots who want to spend money on the game, and free DLC for the rest of us. It's perfectly fine by me. Just like the Jeffersonian quote goes, the average number of chromosomes in a casual Halo player is 46 across the entire community. But blitz packs in Halo Wars 2 fall more in line with a mobile phone model, where the game is technically free, but you have to pay money to make any real progress. Of course, that only helps that the DLCs are paid and the game itself isn't fucking free. But this is only limited to Blitz, which is kind of where my problems start and end. There are some small issues with the structure of the campaign, purely from a gameplay side of things, but, and I hate to advertise fucking DLC in a game with this egregious of a microtransaction system, but Awakening Nightmare pretty much fixes all of that. Although it does introduce a whole new set of mental instability with the narrative, I'd say that the base game story is great on its own, so I don't really think I can complain much about that. The dialogue is also the best thing ever.
Never have I witnessed such complete destruction of a foe!
And if I had an Antagonist of the Year award, it would probably go to Atriox, because he's basically Gaul if he worked. Actually, speaking of that, a great way to describe Halo Wars 2's campaign is that it's Destiny's if it worked. Speaking of, now I can refer to the greatest, most sympathetic, characterized, interesting person ever written into a video game. I am, of course, referring to... And like that, we have entered the realm of the salt. So round of applause to Bungie, who would have thought that the people that made the Halo games could make a game with good gunplay. We're all very impressed. The maps are finally noteworthy as well. I really like the maps in the multiplayer modes this time around. Destiny 1's kind of felt like Bungie said, duh, with all the assets, so nice to see that they actually designed maps this time. Supers are kind of shit, but I mean not like shit as in they're bad, but like they're just colossally overpowered, and they just kind of give anyone with basic motor functions a free kill. But what about the But what about the quadriplegics out there, huh? Bungie needs to give them a super OP weapon. I guess they were just too busy ruining the balance of competitive play with a horrible way they give out ammo. But I feel like ever since Reach came out, they were just kind of like, alright, why don't we just ruin an otherwise perfectly balanced game mode? So they added Invasion Slayer, and then everyone said, Bungie, castrate yourself and jump off a ski lift in the summer, this is the worst fucking thing ever. And then Bungie was just like, no, you guys just aren't smart enough to understand. How about we multiply this mode to the entire fucking game? Besides this blemish though, the multiplayer is actually pretty fun still. Strikes are pretty fun as well. Who gives a shit about the raid? There are 2 good campaign missions, and the cosmetic system is cumbersome, and I don't really hate it, I guess. I guess that should cover just about everything. Overall, I enjoyed myself more than with Destiny 1, but this game did not give me enough of a reason to buy the DLCs. Same as the first, so sorry about that. Now, prepare to enter a world without... Oh yeah, sorry. I mean, I transitioned out of the last 2 games by cutting myself off, so I didn't really think it would be that funny if I did it a 3rd time. Holy shit. I just literally didn't even think it was this possible? Shut up. Holy shit. I just literally didn't even think it was possible to make a soundtrack this good. But that's Prey for you. Preying on my instincts. Now we have time to talk about the game Prey, and strap yourselves in for the most immersive game of 2017. So every game from here on in is unimposedly great in my opinion. And in the field of science, what is known to you as a fact is defined as Mercenary Workshop's opinions. Putting aside the soundtrack, which could turn an innie into an outie instantly just because of how close the fucking shit wants to be to the sound, we can talk about the actual game, which, surprise, is also great. Takes pretty much everything I love about an FPS campaign and multiplies it to the entire game. Hidden crawl spaces, multiple methods of progression, non-linear gameplay, black people portrayed as monsters. It's all here, folks. It's all here. And little things that Arcane does, like having areas locked off by code and you having to go and read through others' emails to find it, makes the game feel so much more realistic to me. And even with the enemy combat, they fucking nail it like the Messiah. They're actually hard to fight. Tension, difficulty, sounds like a great way to get immersed into a spooky alien setting to me. And fear being emphasized in the plot as well, because your character has no idea what the fuck they're doing, basically. Have you ever heard of the phrase, we fear what we don't understand? That's basically this game in a fucking nutshell. Sci-fi can be such a fucking hard thing to nail down in a video game, and I've already made too many crucifixion jokes to finish what I was about to say. It's great. It's great. Next.
Here we go, off the rails. Don't you know it's time to raise our sails?
Cuphead was a game made in the 30s and remastered last year, and you played an anthropomorphic cup. Oh fuck, wait. After saying that out loud, just sensed a disturbance. One sec. Holy shit. A method of eye combustion would definitely be appreciated right about now. Oh, shit. I actually kind of like that one. So yeah, have you guys ever heard of animation? Okay, but seriously, what can I even say on that end? Every frame is a piece of art. There you go. What about the soundtrack? What about the bosses? But what about the parry system? Do you like the art style? Okay, yes, I basically like everything about Cuphead with the exception of some RNG with the bosses.
Shut the fuck up. Cuphead is the best thing ever. What the fuck did you just say about Cuphead, you little bitch? I'll have you know that I graduated in the Navy SEALs in the 3rd degree.
Dumbass piece of shit. But being serious for a second, I don't want to go into this giving the impression that I think Cuphead's gameplay is bad. It's pretty much the opposite of that. But what I do think is that the method in which the bosses inflict damage can be kind of stupid at times. And of course I'm gonna come off as, yeah, loser, you're just bad at the game. But no, shut up, you're bad at the game. When Cuphead 2 comes out and they add a dual mode, I'll blow through you like the fucking pirate boss. The bosses can be very RNG at times, like the dragon fight, and tell me like a solid 40% of it isn't just complete luck based. And in addition, some bosses do have similar attack patterns, but I can't really get too too mad at that. And it can't be understated how basically perfect the game is besides that point, just presentation-wise. Oh, and that plane level makes me wish I was aborted. The production of this game is probably the most respectable thing on this list, to be honest, besides maybe some stuff in the next two games. We're not talking about that right now. Studio MDHR is comprised of like 13 guys, and 2 of them mortgaged their house for the game to be made, so from what I can tell, it was definitely worth it. And if I was reviewing the work of ethic, not the game, it would definitely probably be one of the absolute best this year. In addition to being a great game, I guess you could say Cuphead leaves the glass half full.
Alright, as new management of Square, my first order of business is no more Rage comics.
Sir, yes, the game has already shipped with multiple Rage comics. Fuck, god damn it. Now this fucking game about a goddamn cat is a more compelling and relatable story than us. Well, shit. Okay, all life is hard because I don't know how to lip sync. Jokes aside, I could write a room full of sacred texts worth of stuff to say about this game's story. Or I guess just the game. Most people's first impressions of this game are gonna be like, it's a silly game for kids. It's a silly game with a silly art style. Maybe I could get it for my niece this holiday. And while I purposely think it's interesting enough to mask a game about depression, societal expectations, and people's lives moving on without you, and somewhat spooky supernatural occurrences under this kind of kid-friendly art style is interesting enough. And if only there was some other game that I can compare it to that did something like that. If only though. But yeah, this style for me is absolutely necessary for the primary impact of the game to be felt as effectively as possible. The game uses its art style to lure you in, an emphasis on the very real feel of this game. Every single character in this game has enough dialogue and depth for you to get a general sense about the problems that they're going through without stating it directly to you with a throwaway line of dialogue. It really makes my eyeballs roll back into my fucking skull whenever there's a game with a dramatic storyline where the characters have either just this singular problem that basically defines their entire goddamn character, or when a character just straight up says to you, "I'm so sad because of XYZ. Could you help me by being XYZ?" And the only way they'll either get through or not get through the problem is basically how you handle the situation. It's one note, it's shallow, and I feel like they're being written in for the sole purpose of you acting upon them. This is where Night in the Woods excels and why I fucking love it. Not only do these characters talk to you as if you're just another person in their life and not their fucking therapist, they also feel like a part of a world that continuously exists before and after you play the game. And this goes with the story's main theme of life moving on without you so fucking perfectly. In addition, the world is very charming and appealing. The minigames do their job for the most part. They're not very good, and they just break up the gameplay, which is the only reason they're there. There's this kind of hack and slash minigame on one of the main characters' computers that's actually surprisingly well put together, but besides that, there isn't really much to write home about. Closing thoughts, the arm scene is one of the best things in a video game ever. So I'm just gonna like play that out real quick. Holy shit, I'm gonna get so much crap for this.
Oh, well, Night is the best fucking thing ever, and if you disagree, then
Watch the Prey segment again. I love Hollow Knight. It's my favorite game this year. Well, I don't know. I like Prey for the immersion and gameplay-wise, but I like the Night in the Woods because the emotion Cuphead is good with the end. You know what? It just doesn't even matter. I don't like numeric top 10 lists, but let's get the only shortcoming of this game out of the way first so I can talk about how fucking perfect the rest of us is. And guess what? Here we go. The one thing I don't like about Hollow Knight, drum roll again, and it's the same thing I didn't like about Cuphead. It's the RNG with the bosses. Woo! But seeing as boss difficulty isn't as big a point as Hollow Knight, and that they aren't 90% of the fucking game, I'd say that even though the RNG is slightly worse, it has much less of an impact. But besides that, the game is more polished than The Witcher. And I just realized that the joke made literally no sense, but it is already written into the script, so what can you do? But seriously, if tone done well was a physical manifestation, I think it would be basically a physical copy of Hollow Knight with legs. Oh, fuck, wait. The entire moveset of your little guy is just the most perfect thing ever. Every ability you get either helps you progress effectively, or it gives you more dynamic ways to interact with the sandbox of enemies around you. And all of your soul powers you get across the course of the game all help you out in different situations. You don't want to get too close to an enemy because that fucker forgot to watch wash his hand after fucking you without consent, Dreadnought, and you don't want to get his sex offender DNA all over you, well, just use the vengeful spirit, and one of his past victims will screw him like he screwed you out of 3 goddamn hours of your life. Fucker got an ego so high you can't get him down from the ceiling. Just use howling wraiths, my man. Your wife locked you outside of the house because you didn't pay that dumb bitch your alimony. Just slam into that house you own half of with that desolate dive, my man. And this isn't even including all the abilities that actually help him transverse around the world easier, which is also a rather large amount. Everything in this game comes together to create one of the most streamlined gameplay systems I've ever played. And to quote someone with much more talent, as a product, Hollow Knight is a 10 out of 10, whether or not you somehow don't find this game enjoyable. The sheer amount of content and replayability this $20 game has is fucking mind-boggling. And the same could be said for Cuphead, but unlike Cuphead, this was made by 3 people. 3! Not including the composer, but that's fucking omniscient. These guys, I had such a large, complex world with some of the best gameplay I've ever seen in a game, and they charged 20 for it? Team Cherry. You crazy fuckers. And on top of that, the DLC has even more complex animation. How? I literally can't even comprehend it. It's coming to Switch this year, and I'm going to lose my shit the second they announce anything similar to... No. Wait. It can't be. Holy shit! Game of the century, ladies and gentlemen! The whole list is invalidated. The whole list is invalidated. Hollow Knight Guardians is coming to Xbox One and X in April 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, can you believe this? Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Yeah, this is the only unscripted part, so this is probably going to be the most unarticulate part, so hopefully this doesn't come out too bad. I'm hoping that I didn't, like, subliminally regurgitate someone else's quote. I know I quoted Joe Anderson at one point, and I left a link in the description for him. There's also a link to the Halo Wars 2 video if you're, if it's feeling like you're fancy. If you're wondering why I didn't do a traditional top 10 list, or in this case a top 11, I just don't really think that comparing something like Prey, Hollow Knight, and Night in the Woods in the same list is kind of fair, just because it's so much different than when it comes to making the different games. But yeah, if you're just here to validate your own opinions, I can't really be missing out on that viewer engagement statistic, so here's my top 10 list, and hey, why not scale it out of 10? Because I'm insecure and need assistance mentally. But seriously guys, thank you for actually getting to this part of the video if you did. Love you guys.